Good morning. 8 parties, 12 detectives, and a £460,000 investigation later. Is the country's luckiest Prime Minister about to defy political gravity once again? Partygate isn't quite over for Boris Johnson. The long-awaited report from senior civil servant Sue Gray could land within days. And there are wranglings over what exactly is and isn't going to be published. There hasn't been a renewed clamour among Conservative MPs for the Prime Minister to go yet. Could the gory details of lockdown parties yet to emerge and the threat of some challenging by-elections ahead be what brings his leadership crashing back to earth? With the Sue Gray report out next week, why did the Prime Minister secretly meet with the woman who's writing it a few weeks ago? What did they talk about? Education Secretary Nadhim Zahawi is here to explain. This investigation into parties during lockdown concluded. They issued 126 fixed penalty notices in total, but no further fines for the Prime Minister. Now everything hangs on the hotly anticipated Sue Gray report, which could be out within days. There are fresh questions for the Prime Minister this morning too, over what was discussed at a meeting between him and Sue Gray several weeks ago. Earlier this week, he was asked to guarantee Number 10 wouldn't block any names being made public. Here's what he had to say.
That will be entirely up to Sue Gray, and I'll be looking forward very much to seeing what she has to say, and fingers crossed that'll be pretty soon next week.
And the Education Secretary, Nadhim Zahawi, is here with me. Nadhim Zahawi, you're the Education Secretary, so I need to ask you a question. We'd heard from Dr. Susan Hopkins just a few moments ago. She says monkeypox is spreading here. What plans are you making?
It is serious, and the Secretary of State for Health has already bought the vaccine, which is important, and I know that he and his team and the UK Health and Security Agency will continue to monitor this. So we're taking it very, very seriously. And he had the foresight to buy the vaccine in the first place, to be able to have a first line of defence against monkeypox. But I'm sure there'll be further discussions as well.
All right, let's talk about the Sue Gray report. It's been a long-awaited, detailed investigation. Of course, it was paused or certainly held back while the Metropolitan Police finished their investigation. No more fines for the Prime Minister. But Sue Gray has been looking in detail about what went on at Downing Street and Whitehall during lockdown with those lockdown and rule-breaking parties. Can the Prime Minister survive this when this is published?
Well, I think a couple of things to say on that. One, the Prime Minister has always ensured that Sue Gray is a very senior civil servant. I've worked with Sue Gray, I know Sue Gray, and I know that she's gone where the evidence has taken her. You remember her first report, she didn't pull her punches. It was pretty robust.
So you think he can survive?
Well, and he made the changes after her first report. Remember, she said that actually
the
operation...
full report yet, Nadhim
I hear you, but even with the interim report, first report, he still took that on board, made the changes, new chief of staff, new deputy chief of staff.
Yes.
Andrew Griffiths going into the...
but he's still there, even though he's at the top of the organisation.
And he's the right to be, because I think the Prime Minister has always, throughout this process, allowed Sue Gray to conduct herself independently. More important than that, Joe, and you will know this, right? This is the Prime Minister who delivered Brexit, who delivered the vaccine.
We don't need to go through his greatest hits, as you would say.
Why wouldn't you?
Let me ask you a straightforward question. Will all the evidence that Sue Gray has gathered be published in full, put into the public domain?
Sue Gray makes that decision. Sue Gray has complete control over this. I haven't seen the report. She will publish that report when she
But you'd welcome it.
It's right. I would absolutely welcome it. It's the right thing to do. And I think it's important that the Prime Minister then come back to the dispatch box and respond to that, as he has promised he would do. So ultimately, What matters is people understand what happened and then learn the lessons from
So
it.
you would be pleased to see all the photos, all the CCTV, all the WhatsApp messages that Sue Gray has looked at in detail. You'd want to see it published.
I want to see Sue Gray publish what she thinks is right and appropriate. She, after all, is a formidable civil servant with a level of professionalism and integrity that is unquestionable.
Right.
She's
Well,
been
if
allowed
she's-
to follow
if-
the evidence. She makes that decision, and we will all then see the report. Ministers and, of course, the nation and Parliament.
She is formidable, as you have said, but the Prime Minister is her boss. That's right, isn't it? And we now know that several weeks ago, the Prime Minister had a secret meeting with Sue Gray, the civil servant responsible for writing the report into the Partygate scandal that could determine his political future. Who called that meeting?
Hold on a second. You just called it a secret meeting. The Prime Minister meets his senior civil servants all the time.
Why would he want
But hold
to
on.
meet? Why would he want to meet the person who is responsible for a report investigating his role and others in Partygate before that report is published?
Well, she's also the senior civil servant responsible for levelling up and making sure that the United Kingdom gains the benefit.
Are you
in
comparing
all its four
levelling up
nations.
to law-breaking
No,
parties that
no,
went on
hold
at
a
Downing
second.
Street?
Joe, you just agreed with me that Sue is formidable and has a reputation for integrity that is unquestionable. Let me just finish.
Why did the Prime Minister call a meeting with her?
So I just said to you, the Prime Minister meets his civil servants all the time. I don't know why they had that meeting a couple of weeks ago. All I can say to you, I don't believe it's material to the outcome of the investigation. Why? Let me tell you why. Because the PM has always said that Sue Gray can take the report to wherever the evidence takes her. Sue Gray is doing this independently. The Prime Minister will not
You didn't need to call a meeting, but just to clarify and be clear.
Yes.
You are saying the Prime Minister called that meeting with Sue
No,
Gray?
I just said I don't. I said to you, I don't know. I said to you, I don't know who called the meeting. What I'm saying to you is I don't believe that is material to the outcome of the investigation. Why? Because Sue Gray, you just agreed with me, is professional and has the highest level of integrity. She is independent. The Prime Minister will never intervene,
you've already been
interfere
asked-
in the investigation. He would never do that.
Right, you say he would never do
Yes.
that, but political influence is what people will be asking. You've been asked about this earlier today. Have you not called up number 10 to find out who called that meeting?
I don't need to. You know why?
Well, who did call it then?
No, hold on a second. Because first of all, I don't need to, because I don't believe that having a meeting with your senior civil servants is material to the outcome. That civil servant is independent in their investigation and has the highest level of professionalism and integrity. The Prime Minister has made it very clear that he has never intervened or will seek to intervene or interfere with the investigation. What is material is Sue's able to publish the report that she will publish.
No, I'm afraid
certain
there's
of
a
it.
problem here.
No, there
Do you
isn't.
not think the public, well, you're saying there isn't, you don't need to know. Do you think the public need to know? Because politicians, including the Prime Minister, have said repeatedly, we need to draw a line under this. We need to move on. We need to be transparent. What is transparent about a meeting between the Prime Minister and the person responsible, potentially, for deciding his political future? Why doesn't the public have a right to know who called that meeting and what happened?
I've just tried to explain to you that the Prime Minister meets his senior civil servants all of the time. His diary has many meetings. I've seen reports that Sue Gray's suggested the meeting, but if you ask me about my own diary, and you say to me, Secretary of State, who put that meeting in the
All right.
diary? So a diary secretary may put the meeting in the diary. I don't think that's material. You're throwing mud at something which doesn't exist.
No, I'm
In
not
my-
throwing mud at
I'm
anything
Yes,
at all.
you
I'm
are.
asking
I'm
you to
saying to you-
explain to our viewers
Yes.
why the Prime Minister thought it was necessary to meet with somebody who could decide his political future. How do you think that looks unless we know for sure who called whom? The government says she summoned him, and they talked about whether or not she was going to release photos with the report. She says he summoned her and no photos were discussed. What happened?
So all I'm saying to you is I don't believe that the Prime Minister meeting a civil... You've been around politics for a long time, Joe.
Meeting
you
a
know
civil
Prime
servant
Ministers
with
meet
this
their civil
I do,
servants
but this is
all
a
the
civil
time. They're very
servant.
senior civil servants. So you're creating a sort of dare I say, a cloud of sort of uncertainty
I don't
around
think
this
I am.
when there isn't one.
Clear it up.
Well, I am telling
Clear
you.
it up.
I've just said
Clear
to
it
you.
up for us.
Right.
Did Boris Johnson call Sue Gray, or did
Let
Sue
me-
Gray
no,
say,
the
I'd
way-
like to have a meeting
Well,
with
the
you?
way I will clear it up for you is Boris Johnson has always said he will not interfere or intervene in Sue
So what
Gray's
does this look-
investigation.
what does this look like?
And he has not done that.
Can you... How do you know?
Because he's absolutely on record as saying he won't do it, and he's reassured the country he won't do it. And if there's any evidence of that, then tell me where you get that from. You're actually questioning Sue Gray's integrity, because she would never allow it. Because Sue Gray, I've known her for years, I've worked with her, is a professional and has the highest level of integrity. So you're now saying, a minute ago you told me you thought she was professional, and
I'm
and you thought
asking
that she was-
questions as to what happened here
Yes.
to try and get to the bottom of it, because
Right.
transparency,
Yes.
you have said and your government says, is
Yes.
important. Some people, and when I talk about some people, viewers saying he was trying to influence what she put in her report. That's what they may think. And there is a Prime Minister who has said repeatedly there were no parties at Downing Street and no rules were broken. We know now that's not true.
And it's the same Prime Minister that said he'll come to the dispatch box and actually explain after the police investigation. He did that. He will come to the dispatch box and explain after Sue Gray publishes her report. You agree with me that Sue Gray has the highest level of integrity and professionalism. She has gone wherever the evidence takes her, and she will make the decision as to what to publish. And I trust the process, and I trust Sue Gray to do the right thing, because Sue Gray will never allow herself to behave in any other way. That's the whole point here.
Even if Boris Johnson wanted to have a meeting with her to discuss the content of her report.
Boris Johnson has meetings with all the civil servants, senior civil servants, many times, because they have other responsibilities as well as her responsibility.
Has anyone
This
in government
investigation.
made any attempt to contact or influence what's in Sue Gray's report?
No, I don't believe anybody would ever even countenance the fact, because it's only right that Sue Gray is allowed to conduct her report, her investigation. And Sue Gray, I said to you earlier, I've worked with her.
I know,
she has the highest level of integrity and would never allow that. Look at what she did on Holland. We have evidence here, right? Look at
I'm
what she
not
did.
questioning Sue
Look-
Gray. I'm only
Well,
really
hold on,
interested
Joe.
in the
Hold
Prime
on,
Minister
Joe. We
here.
have evidence here, right? Because you judge someone on their track record. Her first report, Sue didn't pull her punches. It was a pretty punchy report that the Prime Minister had to come and respond to and change the way things are done at Number 10, right?
All right,
I
well,
have
let's go
full
back- let's
confidence
go back to the
in
changes.
Sue Gray and what she will then publish.
Let's go back to the changes. She also criticised failures in leadership at Number 10 in that initial report. Are you ashamed that Downing Street is the most fined address in Britain? 83 people, 126 fines.
So the Prime Minister came to the dispatch box and actually explained
I'm
what
not
happened.
asking you that. Are you
Hold on.
ashamed of that?
No, of course we have to learn the lessons from that. Everybody who has had a fine must reflect on this, right? Hold on, Joe, right? The Prime Minister then didn't just make a statement, made fundamental changes in Number 10. A new Chief of Staff, Deputy Chief of Staff, having Steve
Lots of other
Barclay
people
take
lost
over.
their jobs. That's
Well,
fine.
no.
And he thinks he changed the culture. But let me talk to you, because you were a businessman, Nadeem Zahawi. We've spoken many times about your life prior to politics. If you were running a company now and 83 members of your staff, including you, were fined for flagrant law breaking, would you resign?
So, one, it depends on what actually happened, and I think the Prime Minister, we've seen now.
But I'm asking
many
that
of you-
incident. Would you
I was
resign?
about to
Would
say
you
to
take accountability?
But people were throwing brickbats at the Prime Minister, saying, he's going to get fined many, many times over. He's been fined once, and the police investigation is over. With even that fine, he came to the dispatch box and explained why he felt he had actually done the right thing, and he didn't feel he had, he felt he was inadvertently misled Parliament, and apologised for it.
Inadvertently
Right?
doing
Hold
a
on
lot
second.
of very heavy lifting
Hold on.
here.
Joe,
I mean, the
Joe.
thing is, I'm talking about the staff. If you were running a company and your staff were fined,
Yes.
as the head of an organisation, would you feel accountable, and would you feel you had to take the responsibility for the culture that existed that meant those staff actually broke the law?
And you remember when the Prime Minister got the fine and paid the fine, he made a statement that I'm fully accountable, and I want to make sure that we learn the lessons and do much better, because he's focusing on, we've got a war in Europe. We've just completed the most successful booster campaign, which, by the way, if the Prime Minister hadn't taken the decision to buy the vaccines, which I was witness to, we wouldn't have had
So we
an
should
opening at
forgive.
Christmas.
We should forgive the law breaking.
No, what I'm saying is we should learn from that, always hold ourselves to high standards, and that's what the Prime Minister is doing, that's what the team now is doing in Number 10. That's the right thing to do. Sue Gray will publish her report and the Prime Minister will respond to it in Parliament. That is the right thing to do. The nation expects the Prime Minister to continue to deliver recovery in the economy.
You don't know
We
that,
are in a global battle against inflation, right? He has to deliver that recovery in the economy, right?
All right,
That
well,
battle is being waged all over the world, in America, in
Sure.
Europe.
All right, well, let's
and
talk
here,
about the economy,
right?
the cost of living. Shall we talk about those
course.
economic issues? Because, as you know, it's a huge challenge. The windfall tax on oil and gas companies, profitable companies. Should it happen?
Right. So the Chancellor will look at all the options. Let's look at the oil and gas companies.
What's holding you back
I'm
from
going
making a
to
decision
let me explain
on this?
to
The
you.
Chancellor's been looking
You've
at
just
these
asked me the
options.
question, Joan. Allow me to explain, right? You asked me about the windfall tax. Those energy companies get taxed at twice the rate of other corporations. They pay 40% tax. Let me finish. They've all pledged to invest in renewables, 70 billion of investment. If they make that investment, and the Chancellor is going to hold them to account, wants to see the roadmap for that investment, right, then that's a good thing. The third item on this, right, because there is no easy option here. There is no cost option.
And it's not easy for people paying their bills.
If you tax them with a windfall tax, then they may reduce their dividend. Who gets the dividend? Pensioners get the dividend because through their pension funds, right? So there's no easy options.
So it doesn't sound like you're in favour of
No,
it.
hold on a sec. I'm saying we will review everything. We put 22 billion in the next 12 months of help to those people who need it the most. In July, right, 34 million people get a tax cut of £330 per annum because why? This Chancellor's listened and actually dealt with the national insurance threshold. Let me just follow
Although
me with this
Nadine,
thought,
we
right?
haven't got that much time, and we
I know,
have
we
already
spent
been
a lot
through.
of time about a
we have,
meeting with
well, you not
Sue
think
Gray.
it's important?
No, of course it's important. But what's more important is her report and her independence and her
All right.
ability to follow
Is
the
it a
evidence.
matter of time before this government does announce some kind of windfall tax?
So the Chancellor will want to look at all the options. He's looking at the data as to what's happening with the energy spike, what's happening with the weekly shop. With in April, people got £150.
I know.
Council tax rebate. They will get £200 discount on the energy bills in October. But the thing he will do, and I promise you this, is the Chancellor will see how he can target help to the people who need it the most.
Will he uprate
we will be
benefits?
on their
Will
side.
he uprate benefits in line with inflation?
He will look at every option.
No, I know he's looking at the options, but what should he?
He will look at the Chancellor will make the decision, but he is on people's side and he will deliver that help. 22 billion in 12 months is what was being delivered now, and he'll go even further.
Yes or
and
no?
I've just said to you, he'll go even further.
Yes, well, we're expecting him to go even further because that's what the government has said. Could there be anything in the Sue Gray report that we have spent a lot of time talking about that would make you rethink your support for the Prime Minister?
So, I don't know what's in the Sue Gray report. Right, you don't know what's in it. Nobody knows until she publishes it.
Is there anything?
Right? The Prime Minister has my full confidence. Do you know why? Because every time he said he will come to Parliament, explain himself, and make changes that are fundamental. He's focused on the economy, on making sure that we have safer streets.
We haven't got any time, but thank you very much for joining me. That's it from me. And Sophie will be here with you next Sunday from all of us here.